Welcome to the 9th June Global Festival of Oneness. Welcome to all the Advaita Sadhakas. Today's session is going to be a book launch program of a book called Vibrant Stillness. This is an English translation of two, in fact, Telugu books written by Ellamraju Srinivasarao Garu. And the translation is done by Padma Neppalli Garu. And the conversation is going to be about the book, about Vibrant Stillness English translation. But the focus is going to be basically on the content of the original work by Ellamraju Srinivasarao Garu. Translator Padma Neppalli Garu is going to actually talk about the original two Telugu works and what inspired her to take up this translation work and what are the actual contents of these books and so on. I would like to give a brief introduction of Padma Garu, who is the translator. Padma Garu is a follower of Ellamraju Srinivasarao Garu. She, after more than 30 years working in high-tech, Padma ji took early retirement in 2021 to focus on studying Advaita Vedanta. Padma Garu was initiated into the spiritual path at the age of 10. She spent more than 20 years studying and practicing mantra, tantra, yoga, and various meditation techniques with teachers across the globe. In 2005, she discovered Sri Ellamraju Srinivasarao Garu and found his lucid talks on Advaita Vedanta resonate within her more deeply than any other. After this profound experience, Padma committed herself fully to the study of Advaita Vedanta and other non-dual traditions such as Kashmir Shaivism and Jain Buddhism, deeply inspired by Sri Srinivasarao Garu's work, which are in Telugu, with a desire to share his wisdom and lucid teaching with other seekers around the world. Padma Garu has translated two of Sri Srinivasarao Garu's books and translated one of his talks together with Dr. Ramesham Vemuri. These books are Not to the Essence of Non-Duality, an interpretive English translation of Srinivasarao Garu's original book, Jagadguru Mahopadesham, Knowing Being, Direct and Intuitive Realization of the Self, an oral commentary on Aparokshanubhuti of Sri Srinivasarao Garu that Padma Garu co-authored with Dr. Vemuri Garu. The Vibrant Stillness, her most recent publication, which is a translation and compilation of two different books written by Sri Srinivasarao Garu. Padma Garu lives in San Francisco Bay Area in California, USA, with her family. Welcome, Padma Garu.
Thank you, Nagarajji, for that wonderful introduction. Before we get started, I want to thank you, Harikiran ji, and the entire Indica team for the wonderful work you do to lit the torch and keep it burning for our future generations. I also want to express my heartfelt gratitude for inviting me to use this platform to share some information about my work. I also want to thank all the attendees for taking the time to join in on this discussion today. I hope you will find it inspiring and motivating. Before we get started, I just wanted to offer my salutations to the Guru, the Supreme Consciousness, the all-pervading Supreme Consciousness. अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Okay, Nagaraji, we can get started.
Yeah, shall we launch the book with your picture of the book, Padma Garu?
Right. Yes, I put
Yeah.
together a couple of slides. I think that will make it easier
Yeah.
for people to, yeah. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, are you seeing it?
Yes, this is beautiful. The book, Vibrant Stillness, a beautiful cover page also. It's in fact a book with two different original books translated into English. Can you please introduce the book and the author both to us,
Sure.
Padma Garu?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the book, as Nagaraj said, it's a compilation of two commentaries that were originally written in Telugu by Sri Ellen Raj Garu. The first one is Lalita Ashtottara Rahasyadamo, the secret doctrine in the divine names of Sri Lalita. This commentary runs in the lines of a contemplation on the light of in the light of Shivadvaita. You know, the Sri Vidya, Shivadvaita, Kashmir Shaivism. I'm really using these terms interchangeably throughout this discussion, but this Lalita is the commentary runs in the lines of in the light of Shivadvaita. And then the second book is the Dakshinamurti Pradakshina. It's the circumambulation of Sri Dakshinamurti. That was the original name of the book. And it is also, the commentary is also a very deep contemplation that runs in the light of Advaita Vedanta. So as Nagaraji already stated, my role here was to translate, edit, and compile the book into one book. And the reason I did that, because I was really inspired by the spirit of Advaita that runs in these books. And I was, I had a desire to share this with the rest of the global audience because Telugu, there are very few Telugu speakers across the world. And I wanted to make sure that, they enjoy it as much as I did. So that's Vibrant Stillness is a confluence of Shivadvaita and Shankaradvaita teaching. Also, as you notice, the book cover, I want to pay special attention to that just for a minute, because it is actually a beautiful painting that was an inspired painting by one Mr. G.S. Prakash Garu. He lives in Vizag and I think he's quite famous because his paintings are in the, Raja Ravi Verma, so that's the level of painting. I think one of his paintings on one of the famous Andhra poets, Nannaya, I think it was also used as a stamp in Andhra Pradesh. It was just by a sheer chance that he came to know through my brother about this book that I was writing, and he drew this picture for me where it really shows the vibrant stillness. For those of you who haven't already seen it, there is the face of the Divine Mother and a lot of symbolism of Shiva Shakti built into that, painted into that picture. So that's what the book cover is kind of a special thing for me. I was very excited when I got that painting and used it on my book. Okay, so go ahead, Ramadagraji.
Yeah. A few words about the great Ellamraju Srinivasarao Garu. I think we can go to that picture where
Okay.
yeah.
So this is my teacher. Brahmashri Ellanraj Srinivasarao Garu, he passed away in 2015. He was a very let me go into a slide set here. Okay, so there's some little bio about Sri Ellanraj Garu. He was born on July 19, 1927 to Srimad Sitama Garu and Sundar Rao Garu in Markapuram. All his education was in Andhra Pradesh, in different cities in Andhra Pradesh. He took his master's from Andhra University in Telugu and worked as a lecturer and head of the department in various government colleges. He took early retirement, voluntary retirement in 1982 and dedicated the rest of his life to the teaching of Advaita. He was a scholar in Sanskrit and Telugu. He was fluent in Persian and Urdu and had a very broad and deep knowledge on several Eastern and Western philosophies. He often quoted extempore from the Sufi texts and Christian texts and so on, only to illustrate his points. When he's making a point, when he's trying to teach something, he would use all these different philosophies to illustrate his point. He wrote several books and gave several thousands of talks on Advaita Vedanta. The most popular among them being the Prasthana-traya, the Bhashyas on Brahma Sutras, Upanishads, and Bhagavad Gita. He also wrote a commentary on Dakshinamurti Stotram, which is what I had translated, Manasollasam, Naishkarma Siddhi, Sanatsujatiyam, Yoga Vashishta, Vedanta Panchadasi, and also the Shivadvaita Granthas like Tripura Rahasyam, Sri Lalita Sahasranama, and so on. Additionally, he had written several texts and gave several hours of talks on specific aspects of Advaita Vedanta and the sadhana. So that kind of summarizes at a very high level a little bio on Srinivasarao Garu. And here I want to talk a little about him as I know him as his student, self-proclaimed student. What I appreciate about him and what really made me, follow him for the last 20 years. Srinivasarao Garu was not just a scholar, he was extremely learned in the scriptures and was very fluent and in the grammar and everything about Sanskrit, but he was also a mystic. So he was not just a pandit, but also a mystic. So when he spoke with a lot of passion and insight, and his audience, he never really gave big talks to large gatherings. He kind of avoided publicity, and his talks were mostly to a very small group of people, really serious and committed seekers. He would be talking to them only. So he never really liked TV channels or any of that, although they tried to get him to talk and to share and distribute his knowledge, but he was not very open to that. So his teaching was confined to a small group of people. And so he was a seer, with a vision, and he was so knowledgeable in the other other Advaita tradition, the non-dual traditions, that he could, his vision could pierce through those traditional boundaries. He could just look through all the differences, reconcile the differences if there are any, but he could get to the core Advaita message. And, in that sense, he was not a purist, purist in the sense that he's drawing boundaries and saying, this is me, that is something else. No, he was able to really look through all the different Advaita traditions, understand and grasp the message, the key Advaita message, So he was a master integrator and a synthesizer. He freely weaved in teachings and examples from different non-dual traditions into his Advaita Vedanta talks. And he did this mainly to drive home the ultimate message of Advaita, that nothing was ever born. So Gaudapada's Ajatavada was what he upheld as the ultimate teaching, but he also wanted to open the hearts of his students to that mystical experience or that anubhava, of that which cannot be expressed through words. So he really struggled to get home the message, not struggled in a sense that he had to do the hard work, but the amount of effort and passion, even at the ripe age of 80s, he was equally passionate and would talk about, in his talk, you could see the spirit of Advaita come through very strongly. And not only did he focus on the Siddhantam, the doctrine, but he also explained spent a lot of time on sadhana, because he would say that, that Brahman is Vastu Siddham, but it has not become, it's everywhere, but it has not become your experience because it's not Buddha Siddham, your intellect has not grasped it. So he would really try to drive home the message of Advaita Vedanta, and he was uncompromising about it, like he would really ask his students to, warn them and caution them against kamya karmas, and focus and stay committed to the path of Advaita. So his passion would really for the truth, and his it could kind of make him sound a little harsh, especially towards the ritualists, And I just wanted to read a quote from the foreword. And by the way, the foreword for this book has been written by Dr. Arvindrao Garu, Karnam Arvindrao Garu, who is also an integral part of the Indica team. And I really appreciate his feedback. He was also part of the review team of this book. And he wrote regarding Yellandaj Garu. And Dr. Arvindrao had a lot of personal experience with Yellandaj Garu too. So he writes, at first, a student may be amazed by his bold statements, which sometimes appear radical. A senior student will soon realize that the earlier writers like Sage Vidyaranya have also used the same no-nonsense language in their works like Vedanta Panchadasi. Okay, so that kind of tells you that what sort of a person he was, that he was really unflinching, a real advocate of Advaita Vedanta. He spoke tirelessly about the Siddhantam and the sadhana. So that kind of, I can keep talking about Yellandaj Garu, but I think we don't have enough time. But I think the rest of the discussion today will kind of bring out the man behind the teaching as well,
Yeah,
Okay.
that was wonderful introduction and your inspiration also. You covered why you were inspired
Yeah.
uh, by him. And there are two works here. One is Sri Shivadvaita, you are calling it. I would call it Sri Vidya
Yeah.
related. And the other is Advaita related, Dakshinamurti
Mhm.
Pradakshina. Can you give us a brief introduction of these two different philosophies and their connection with each other?
Yes, certainly, Nagraj.
Mm.
Thank you. So I wanted to also continue first to talk about the inspiration, which is this teaching, as Nagrajji just summarized. The two books represent two different doctrines, the tantric, Sri Vidya, Kashmir Shaivism, whatever name we give it, and then we have Dakshinamurti Sutram, which is actually originally Shankara Bhagavadpada's contribution to the world. So to me, what really inspired me about the teaching is the common vision of oneness, Um, so it seemed like two seemingly different doctrines, Tantra versus Vedanta. But really, when you really put on the hat of a seeker and start diving into the message behind the obvious, the deep message hidden, buried within these two doctrines, then you start seeing how it is the same vision that these darshan, the way visions or darshans that these sages had, it's just the angle, the method in which they approached it is different, maybe, but the common vision of oneness, this is what inspired me. And also the common methodology that is used in in both of these doctrines. So the famous the model Adhyaropa and Apavada, so this is, you see the same theme running in both of these doctrines and these books as well. And also what's really intriguing are the different verses that you see in the Upanishads and also in the Shivadvaita Granthas, Like, for example, Isavasya is saying, Tanejati, Tanejati, Tadure. It moves and it moves not. It is far and it's likewise near. It is inside all this and it is outside all this. So what is this, right? So it's extremely intriguing. That's just a small sample of everything else that you find in the Upanishad. And then you have in Pratyabhigya Hridayam, which is another very famous work in Moksha Grantha in the Shivadvaita. And there's this sutra, the second one, it says, Swechaya Swabhito Vishwa Unmilayati. That is, where the power of her own will, consciousness unfolds the universe upon a part of herself. That's pretty profound. So what is it that moves and doesn't move? What is it, this power that created this universe? So one starts marveling at it. So it is really the beauty and unity in the diversity that inspired me. This is the dynamism of Shakti and the stillness of Brahman. Kind of that's what you're going to see in the vibrant stillness. It's the confluence of both these traditions. So moving on to
can you say a few words about the title, ma'am? Why you chose this title, Vibrant Stillness?
The vibrant stillness, right? That's for the reasons I just mentioned. That this beauty and unity in diversity, right? So the beauty and unity in diversity, I mean that in the next slide you're going to start seeing what I mean by the diversity. So that both the teachings have a common they agree on some things and they depart on some things. So we'll talk about that, and that's the beauty and unity in the diversity. I'll explain more about that in the next slide, if I may go to my next slide here. So I think at this point, it is to talk about the diversity, it is probably a good idea to look into like in a very high level, a bird's eye view of Advaita Vedanta and Shivadvaita. Just a disclaimer, I'm not an expert in either of these. This is just based on my research while I was writing the book and based on my understanding. So forgive me if I have not captured it accurately, and it is not a comprehensive review either, okay? Just enough for us to understand what is the unique value of this book, the Vibrant Stillness, okay? And why I named it Vibrant Stillness, okay? So a quick look at what these two traditions are. So the Advaita Vedanta and Shivadvaita, they both agree that the absolute reality is pure consciousness, right? There's no dispute about that. They also agree that the goal of human life, the Purushartha, is to realize this truth and attain moksha. Okay? That the appearance of duality prevents individuals from realizing their true non-dual nature. So on these three basic tenets, they agree, that the absolute reality is pure consciousness, the goal of human life is to realize it, and then this appearance of the so-called duality is what prevents us from realizing this truth. So that's why they agree. Then the disagreement really is on the basis and reality of the universe, okay? And the methods or the sadhana for realizing the truth. So, for example, avidya maya, that's what the Vedanta says, it's pure ignorance, due to ignorance that you're seeing a world where there is only Brahman, right? And then you have the Shivadvaitas talking about the Shakti, the expansion of Shiva, and that's what's causing this universe to appear. So it's just beautiful the way they both come to the same realization. But the difference really is, I think, to me, it seems, on the method, the sadhana for realizing the truth. So the Advaitin tries to transcend the avidya, maya, whereas the Shivadvaita probably is trying to harness it, to leverage it to realize the truth. So going to the next slide here. So these are the kind of a very high level differences in the philosophy. So for the Advaita Vedantin, Brahman, the absolute truth, is a witnessing consciousness. So it's a Sakshi Chaitanya. And it has no, it's Nishkriya, it doesn't act. So it's pure Prakasha, Jnana, without Vimarsha or activity. And then the world is a projection, a superimposition on Brahman due to avidya maya. Okay, and the world, according to Advaita, it's ultimately unreal. It's just an abhasa. It's a fallacious appearance, and Brahman alone is real. And now you look at the right side here, Shivadvaita. What is Brahman for the Vedantin? It is Paramashiva for the Shivadvaita. It's a pure Chaitanya. But this pure Chaitanya also has a divine power, Shakti, or a creative energy. This Shakti is not different from Shiva. And also both, so Paramashiva is both Prakasha and Vimarsha. Pure consciousness has the absolute power of will. It has an Icha Shakti to create and manifest anything, right? And if Shiva is Paramashiva, if Brahman is real, then his expansion, or which is this creation, is also real. How can Brahman be real, and when he expands, his expansion become unreal? So that's the basic differences in the philosophy. And a quick look now at the differences in the practice, the sadhana. So the Vedantin kind of renounces the world. He wants to attain the self by negating the not self, the anatma, right? Till the self alone remains. So following the neti process, he negates and refutes the name and form, body, intellect, mind, and everything that's just which is a limiting adjunct, until everything is dissolved and only what remains is the self alone. So it's a negative process where they're just negating everything that appears to the five senses, the world, the triputi, right? The notion of I, the world, the Jagat, and Ishvara even, right? So that is the methodology that we see as part of the sadhana for the Advaita Vedanta. Now the Tantric, which is also the Shivadvaitan, he embraces the world in its totality, knowing it to be Shakti, the expansion of Shiva. So nothing is negated here. Everything is embraced, and they're not like, although they say Shiva and Shakti, really they are talking about that one same entity, like fire and heat, or the two sides of the coin. Shiva and Shakti cannot be separated. They're entwined together. And the most effective way to attain Shiva is through Shakti in her infinite manifestations. See? So this is the beauty that I see, that both of them are have a wonderful methodology, reasoning, models to attain that oneness. Yeah. But I'd like to talk a little bit at this point about Srinivas Rao and how he expounded the Advaita sadhana, and this is the theme that you will see throughout the book as well, So according to, one second, let me be sure I have my notes here as well. Yeah. So according to Srinivas Rao, he says a crystal clear understanding of the core Advaita doctrine is itself the sadhana and the siddhi, So he spoke hours and hours on the Tattvamasi Vakya, Mahavakya Vicharana, understanding the Tat and the Tvam Padartha Sodhana, this he gave a lot of importance. And he said, just by this clear understanding, that already is the sadhana in Advaita. Attaining the clear and the crystal clear understanding is itself the sadhana and the siddhi. But he also said that paroksha jnana, you get acquired through the study of scriptures, is not enough. It must culminate in aparoksha jnana, an intuitive, direct experience of that which cannot be described in words, right? So he did encourage contemplation and meditation on the absolute reality. This is where he would integrate some of the Shivadvaita sadhana prakriyas, and when we say contemplation and meditation, he's not talking about meditating on one Ishtadevata, but to really break those boundaries and to expand, like Shakti, to expand and experience that consciousness, some of the names of the Divine Mother that we see are Bhavanagamya, Dhyanagamya, in Lalita. She's she who can be attained through bhavana, by contemplation. She's the goal of the contemplation. And interestingly, although the Advaita Vedantis do not particularly encourage meditation as a prakriya, you see that in Aparokshanubhuti, the verse 140, there is a Aparokshanubhuti which is ascribed to um, Shankara Bhagavadpada. There is a quote that says, that man who steadfastly and with conviction thinks about anything will become that thing. The Brahmarakita Nyaya, right? Where you meditate on something and then you start acquiring the attributes of that thing, at least in terms of Vasanakshaya, refining the mind, all of that, these prakriyas were advocated by Ellen Rajgaru. And he talked a lot about Pratyabhigya Pravilapana as a sadhana, as part of his sadhana. These are the two limbs of Advaita sadhana, and the Pratyabhigya is the recognition. So it's just a matter of remembering who you are. That's a recognition of a real nature. And he would, in a lot of his talks, he talks about Satchit, the existence and consciousness, and how to do the deliquescence, the pravilapana of names and forms, so that the only Sat and Satchit, the pure existence and consciousness remain. The self alone shines as the Satchit. So there was a lot of emphasis on sadhana by Srinivas Rao Garu. So Nagaraj Garu, did I answer your question?
Yeah. That was wonderful. Now let us take these two books one by one. And the first book, what made you find interesting in that book, and what
Yeah,
are the salient features of your translation?
sure. Yeah. Okay, so let's take now a brief look at the texts that inculcate these teachings. Okay, so the commentary on the secret doctrine of Lalita. So what Elendaju did here is basically he took of the 1,000 names of the Divine Mother, he selected 108 names and focused on those. And basically, he looked at he. It seems to me he selected the names that actually become part of the Siddhanta sadhana, for the Gyan. It's almost like he would even say this, this is like a Jnana Yajna. This is not just Parayana in just a routine chanting, but Parayana is like reaching a goal. There is every name in the Sahasranama has a very particular goal for the sadhaka to attain. And those are the names that Sri Srinivas Rao selected in this book. Right. And he divided them into two sets, the Avarohana and Arohana, right? And 54 names in each of those. And the descent and the ascent, right? And the descent into samsara, yeah, from the unmanifest to the manifest. That's what these names are basically describing, the descent of the Divine Mother from the unmanifest to the manifest. It's really metaphor. It's only a metaphor used to describe it, assigned to the mother, but really it is the descent and ascent of the jiva, the individual, his descent into samsara, and how can he ascend back into Shiva to attain Sivasayajya, right? The union with Shiva. So each mantra in this book, if you look at the picture that I put in there, an inside view of the book, you see that each mantra is followed by a one-line literal translation. And then you see a very long commentary. And this commentary runs in the like a contemplation, and the manana. So it's not just a word to word, but there is a lot of manana also put in there, for a sadhaka that could be very helpful. So I just put a couple of quotations from the book, from Srinivas Rao Garu's introduction. And he said the significance of these names can be grasped only through intuition and deep insight into their meaning. Hence, this chant is popularly known as the secret chant, the Rahasya, because there's, and most of you, I'm sure all of you are very familiar with the Lalita Sahasranama chant. They're different. You can start feeling it. They're very obvious for the devotee, for the upasana, for the jnani. There's everything. It's like a treasure house of wisdom, those chants. And it all depends on how you are wired, to get the best out of it. And in this book, you're going to see it's all on jnana, the knowledge. And Shakti is the expansion of Shiva. Using Shakti as the means, a seeker can most certainly trace it back to its source and attain Shiva Sahaja, complete union with Shiva. So this is the promise the Srinivas Rao Garu makes about Lalita Rahasya, and this book, and I think it is. It's a pretty interesting book, and like I said, it's more on the lines of contemplation on using the Shivadvaita concepts here. Okay, and then moving to the next one here, this is a commentary on Dakshinamurti Stotra. Again, we need no introduction to this chant. It's a very popular chant, and the Shankara Bhagavadpada captured the entire Prasthana-traya Bhashya into these 10 small verses. Okay, and it's packed with wisdom. Now, Ellen Rajagaru wrote an elaborate commentary on each of these verses. So you can see in the screenshot I put in there the lengthy commentary that Ellen Rajagaru gives. Again, to touch on some of the Srinivas Raghu's own words regarding this, right? He says, Lord Dakshinamurti is not a deity like Shiva or Vishnu who are worshipped with forms and attributes. I strongly believe that Shankara's intention is to propagate self-knowledge, not ritualistic worship through this hymn. Only then will this hymn be consistent with the rest of his works, which are essentially Advaita in purport. And he also says that when we say we bow to Lord Dakshinamurti, it means we bow to the Guru, who is pure consciousness. Since the essential nature of the disciple is also pure consciousness, the one who bows and the one who receives the bow are not two different entities. As consciousness, they are the same. So that kind of summarizes, Nagaraj Garu, a little deeper dive into these two books. Did I answer your question?
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful, ma'am. You have given the summary of both the wonderful works by Yellamra Srinivas Rao Garu. And the title, Dakshinamurti Pradakshinamu, which is a circumambulation. Do you have anything to say about that and how you were able to capture it
Right.
in your
Yeah, I
enunciation?
think so. This is again, I think the second line verse here is kind of summarizes that addresses that in a little way. So he says that in his introduction that you start with the formless guru, Dakshinamurti is the guru, and Dakshinamurti, like he said, is not a form, but it is the pure consciousness. Pure consciousness appears as a guru in the form of a guru. And by the time the student has internalized the teaching, right? Realizes that Tattvamasi Vakya, and he becomes that Aham Brahmasmi realization. That's a complete circle, So he starts with the formless guru and he ends with the formless guru because he himself has lost that identity, and has now merged into the supreme consciousness. So in this sense, the teacher and the disciple are not two different things, because ultimately the teaching is going to do that Tevilapana, that you just lose your identity in that oneness of the self.
The book is, I think, the original Telugu work and your English translation also is not a word-to-word commentary or word-to-word meaning for either the Lalita part or the Dakshinamurti part, I think. So the way it is covered seems to be an elaborate commentary or a meditative explanation of both these works. Can you say a few things about how the two texts deal with the original Lalita and also Dakshinamurti Stotra?
So the Lalita, I mean, you already stated that, Nagaraji, they are, first of all, the original books, the Lalita Ashtottara Rahasyardhamu by Ellen Rajagaru, and also the Dakshinamurti Pradakshina. In the original books, he was not trying to describe word to word. In a sense, he does do that. Overall, as part of the commentary, which runs in the style of a contemplation, he does describe the words and the different words in the verses, but it is really not a literal translation like you typically see, like a small paragraph, for each verse. You see it actually goes into a couple of paragraphs, or almost couple of pages even. I think this particular, maybe the Lalita has like half a page, 2 pages of commentary. Dakshinamurti goes into even longer, because it really is a commentary, not a literal translation. Although the Srinivas Rao Garu makes a lot of effort to define the terms within the explanation that he provides. So with Lalita, though, the one liberty that I took was to basically add a one-liner description, literal translation as well, for the English audience. Those who are not familiar with this chant, just wanted to give them the literal translation. It also shows that how superfluous that is. Really the depths. It's like they just swimming on the surface of the ocean versus diving deep into the ocean where you see all the precious stones. So that to me was that swimming on the surface is that one liner, and digging deep in to the meaning is that swimming, diving into the ocean. So I added a one line description. I basically used from Mata Amritananda Mayi's descriptions. There is a whole 1,008 names a book on that produced by that organization. So I use some of those descriptions here to put the one-liners. And so that's what's different about the English translation, that it's got these additional elements to it, okay, like the one-liner. Dakshinamurti Stotra, nothing different. I didn't do anything different about it. It's just a translation. I had to edit it, of course. In Telugu idiom, when you translate it, it doesn't come out good at all. So you really need to make it easy for the English reader. I really had to do, as Ellen Rajagaru would say, kasrat, exercise on some of those sentences so that the translation reads well. But I tried really hard to make sure that I did not compromise on the meaning. So I had my family and Dr. Ramesangaru and Arvind Rao Garu, all of them helped me in whipping the book up to shape. So that kind of summarizes the work that went into the translation and the final product that came out, and how different it is from the original. Except for the language, I don't think that, I hope not, that there is a huge difference in any way in terms of the meaning between after the translation.
Wonderful, wonderful, Padma Garu. Thank you very much for covering your translation and the original work. In terms of your concluding remarks, would you like to say to the audience and sadhakas of Indica Moksha in the form of your concluding message or winding up message?
Yeah, absolutely, Andy. Thank you for giving me that last chance over here. So here, some closing thoughts. Okay, I already talked a lot about Ellen Rajagaru, and I hope you get the essence of what he stood for. And one second here, yeah, and what his messages and how these books are going to basically bring out the wisdom of our ancient sages, as well as the most recent one, which is Sri Ellen Rajagaru. Okay, so some closing thoughts on that, right? So why would you want to read The Vibrant Stillness, right? And I think for me, it was the brilliant synthesis of two seemingly different Advaita doctrines by Sri Ellen Rajagaru, right? So, if you are a sadhaka at heart and are willing to transcend the boundaries, and if it is and if you enjoy both of these different doctrines, and especially the spirit of Advaita, then this book is for you, so because it does synthesize the two teachings. And also the deep contemplation, that, like I said, the commentaries run as contemplation on the oneness of Shiva, Brahman, and Shakti, and the Advaita Siddhi, the Sarvatma Bhava, the experience of the self in all, of all, right? Experience of the self in everything, the infinity that thing where the Pravilapana happens, right? This contemplation can facilitate that, you know. Of course, it all depends on each and how each of us is wired. But for me, these two books really meant a lot in terms of my own sadhana. So I try to, you know, I felt compelled to put them together side by side, you know. I think I hesitated originally because I wondered if it will be received well, you know, because sometimes, you know, they were very hard. Some some of us draw very hard boundary lines between the different traditions. So I kind of hesitated to put what is typically considered a tantric guide and Shankara's the Dakshinamurti's pure Advaita Vedanta into one book. But I wanted, because I saw the oneness of the two, I felt compelled to share that with the rest of the world. You know, so I hope when you read this book, you will experience and enjoy it as much as I did. So again, who should read it, right? The Advaitin and the Tantric, who is charged with the spirit of Advaita and is thirsty like the Chetaka bird, you know, for that intuitive experience of oneness, you know. So if it is all about sadhana for you, then, and not so much about, and if you, a scholarly experience, but rather an anubhava, then this book would be something that you would probably enjoy, you know. You know, that I use the word, the example of the legendary Chetaka bird, right? I don't know. I'm sure most of you are familiar with. This is a bird that is supposed to be, wait for the monsoons to quench his thirst. You know, so I just Googled. I thought it was a legendary bird. You know, it is a mythical bird. I thought, but when I Google, I happily found that there is really a bird like that. You know, so just a fun fact before we close on this. Um, so the fun fact is that the Chetaka bird is called the Jacobin cuckoo, right? And it's found in Africa and Asia. With the last line, and it pleads with the clouds to bring in rain so that its thirst can be quenched. It is seen as a symbol of spiritual longing and devotion. Its choice to abstain from water until the arrival of the monsoon is akin to the devotee's yearning for the divine nectar of spiritual knowledge and enlightenment. I thought that one last line kind of sums up all of us here on this who took the time, at least for us in the US, early morning hours to attend this discussion, and also those of you in India on your late evening. It kind of sums up what we are after, you know, that thirst for knowledge and that enlightenment. And I hope you found this discussion useful, and I really wish you all, the blessings of all the entire lineage of our gurus and seers, both the ancient ones as well as the contemporary ones. I once again want to thank Indika, Nagraj Garu, Harkiran Garu, Nitin Ji, and Arvindra Garu, and all the others whose names I don't know, for all the good work they do and for giving me this platform to talk about the book. That's it, Nagraj. Right?
Thank you very much, Padma Garu. This was a very excellent presentation of your translation and the author of the original work and the two original works, Lalita Stotram and the Dakshinamurti Stotram. So I think all the audience have enjoyed your presentation of this book, and this book is available on Amazon. The link for the Amazon availability is shared in the chat. So I suggest all of you audience, please have a copy of this book. You will definitely realize that whatever Padma Garu has said about the value of this work will be definitely realized by you, enjoyed by you. You'll experience it and you'll put it in practice and in the form of your sadhana. The Global Festival of Oneness will continue as usual. And as you know, we have both the morning and evening sessions. And tomorrow we have our morning session at 7 o'clock as usual. And we have this talk, understanding the nuances of Dharma Shastras by following the footsteps of Adi Shankaracharya. Very, very interesting topic. Usually, we don't take Adi Shankaracharya's interpretations to a field like the Dharma Shastra. So, Vidwan P.V. Rajaraman ji is going to take up this very intriguing and interesting, challenging topic tomorrow morning. uh, I request you to kindly spread the word, and all of you please do attend the morning session. And with a prayer and Shanti Mantra, let us close today's session. गुरवे सर्वलोकानां धिषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। वटविटपि समीपे भूमिभागे निषण्णं सकलमुनिजनानां ज्ञानदातारमारात् त्रिभुवनगुरुमीशं दक्षिणामूर्तिदेवं जननमरणखेदच्छेददक्षं नमामि। विदिताखिलशास्त्रसुधा जलधे महितोपनिषत्कथितार्थनिधे हृदये कलये विमलं चरणं भवशङ्करदेशिकमे शरणम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।